Taipei, a bustling metropolis in Taiwan, is known for its vibrant culture, towering skyscrapers, and the labyrinthine streets of its night markets. Among the most famous is the Shilin Night Market, a sprawling maze of food stalls, games, and trinkets, drawing crowds from all over the world. But beneath its lively atmosphere, there's an unsettling legend that few dare to speak about. The locals whisper of a ghost, a spirit that haunts the market, preying on the souls of those who unknowingly walk into its web. The tale begins with an unusual phenomenon. People who visit the market with certain intentions, whether good or bad, seem to encounter something, or someone, who subtly guides them toward a path they never intended to take. It is said that this spirit never appears directly, but rather in glimpses, a shadow out of the corner of your eye, a chill that runs down your spine when you least expect it, or a voice that seems to call your name, though no one is around. These eerie occurrences have been brushed off by some as nothing more than urban legends or the result of overactive imaginations. But for others, those who have experienced it firsthand, the ghost of the Taipei night market is far too real. It was a typical Thursday night when Liam, a young college student from the United States, found himself wandering through the bustling aisles of Shilin Night Market. He had heard about the legendary street food, the vibrant atmosphere, and, of course, the dark tales that followed the market's name. But being a skeptic, Liam brushed off these stories as nothing more than folklore, strange tales meant to spice up the experience. As he passed the countless food vendors, the tempting aromas of stinky tofu, fried dumplings, and bubble tea filled the air, luring him deeper into the market. Despite the noise and chaos around him, there was something oddly tranquil about the place. Maybe it was the cool night breeze or the soft glow of neon lights that made the market feel like an oasis amidst the crowded city. Liam paused for a moment near a fortune teller's stall, a small booth adorned with red lanterns and intricately carved wooden figures. The old woman behind the counter noticed him and beckoned him to come closer. Her face was lined with age, but her eyes were sharp, piercing as if she could see right through him. "Are you here for a fortune, young man?" she asked in a voice that was both warm and eerie, as though she had known him for a lifetime. Liam hesitated, glancing at the small crowd of people who stood waiting for their turn. He wasn't one to believe in such things, but there was something compelling about her, something that made him want to indulge in the curiosity of it all. "Sure, why not?" he replied with a half-smile, thinking it would be an interesting experience. The woman's hands, wrinkled and delicate, moved like a dance as she shuffled a deck of tarot cards. With a quick, almost imperceptible movement, she placed the cards on the table and gestured for Liam to look. "You've come seeking something," she murmured, her eyes locking onto his. "But you don't know what you're truly looking for. Be careful. The night market will show you what you need to see, but be warned, not everything is as it seems." Liam chuckled, unsure of how to respond. "I'm just here for some food and fun. No need to get all mysterious on me." The woman didn't smile. Instead, she simply slid the cards back into their deck, her gaze lingering on him for a few moments longer than comfortable. "I hope you find what you're looking for," she said softly, almost too quietly for him to hear. As Liam walked away, a strange sense of unease settled in his chest. He shook his head, laughing at himself. It was just an old woman trying to make a few extra dollars. Nothing more. Still, as he continued his exploration of the market, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching him, following him from the shadows. A cold shiver ran down his spine, and he quickly dismissed the sensation as just a late-night chill. But no matter how many food stalls he passed, no matter how many games he played, the unease lingered. Somewhere, just beyond his line of sight, something was waiting for him. As Liam continued his stroll through the market, the night's excitement seemed to dull. The usual hustle and bustle, the clatter of arcade games, the laughter of children, and the chatter of vendors all faded into a low, muffled hum. The bright lights of the stalls felt less inviting now, as if the shadows around them were creeping closer, stretching toward him. He stopped near a stall selling colorful trinkets, traditional souvenirs like wooden masks and delicate jade necklaces. Something caught his eye, a small, ornate mirror framed in silver. It was beautiful, its surface gleaming under the lights. He picked it up, examining it closely. The reflection in the mirror was odd, however. Liam could see himself, of course, but in the reflection, his face looked strange. His features were sharper, almost gaunt, and his eyes looked dark, hollow, like there was something lurking beneath the surface. He blinked, shaking his head as he lowered the mirror, but when he looked up again, the reflection was normal. Just tired, he muttered to himself, quickly setting the mirror down and moving away from the stall. The market around him seemed to close in, the space suddenly feeling smaller, suffocating. His footsteps, once light and carefree, now seemed too loud in the eerie silence that had fallen over the market. He continued walking, desperate to shake off the growing sense of dread, but no matter where he turned, the feeling of being watched only intensified. He stopped at another food stall, this one selling bubble tea, his favorite. The woman behind the counter greeted him with a smile, but there was something off about it. Her lips were stretched too thin, her eyes too wide, and as Liam placed his order, he felt an odd tightening in his chest. "You seem nervous," she said, handing him his drink. Liam, caught off guard by the question, frowned. "No, I'm fine." He tried to brush it off, but as he reached for the cup, the woman's eyes darkened, and a flicker of something unnatural, passed between them. "Be careful what you seek," she whispered, her voice dropping to a low, almost inaudible tone. "The market knows what you need, but not what you want." Liam's hand froze just above the cup. He stared at the woman, who was now watching him intently, her smile gone, replaced by a knowing, almost predatory expression. But before he could say anything, the woman turned away, leaving Liam standing there, holding the drink, his heart pounding. He quickly grabbed the cup and walked away, but the unsettling feeling continued to grow. He felt the air grow colder, and as he passed more stalls, he noticed something strange. The people around him, shoppers, vendors, tourists, seemed to blur at the edges of his vision, their features becoming distorted, as if they were mere shadows of themselves. Was he imagining it? Or was something truly wrong with this place? A sudden gust of wind blew through the market, and for just a split second, he saw it, there, just beyond the stall selling toys. A fleeting shadow, a figure that stood still as the market moved around it. He couldn't make out any details, only the impression of something dark and out of place. Liam turned quickly, his pulse racing. But when he looked back, the shadow was gone. Liam couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong with the night market. The strange occurrences, the unsettling feeling that someone was watching him, the distorted reflections in the mirror, the eerie warnings from the fortune teller and the bubble tea vendor, were all adding up in ways he couldn't ignore. Despite his skepticism, something deep within him urged him to uncover the truth. The sense of dread that had settled in his chest had only grown stronger, and he couldn't help but feel that if he didn't find out what was going on, it would follow him beyond the market and haunt him forever. Determined to get to the bottom of it, Liam made his way to the far end of the market, past the food stalls and the games. The area grew quieter as he ventured further, and the neon lights seemed to dim, casting longer shadows that twisted unnaturally in the cool night air. He remembered the fortune teller's words, "The night market will show you what you need to see, but be warned, not everything is as it seems." His footsteps slowed as he approached a small alley that led off the main thoroughfare. The alley was narrow, with a few dimly lit stalls lining the sides, their contents covered in dust. The air smelled stale here, and the occasional flicker of a faulty light bulb added to the sense of decay. He glanced around, and there, at the far end of the alley, stood an old wooden door. It was unlike any of the other doors around the market, weathered, creaking, and clearly out of place. Without thinking, Liam found himself walking toward it. As his hand reached for the door handle, he hesitated. There was something deeply unsettling about it, an unspoken warning that tugged at him. He thought about turning back, but the pull to uncover the truth was too strong. With a deep breath, he opened the door and stepped inside. The room beyond was small, dimly lit by a single hanging lantern. It was filled with rows of wooden shelves, each one lined with strange, unmarked bottles and jars. The air was thick with the scent of incense, and the walls were covered in faded, handwritten signs in an ancient script Liam couldn't read. The atmosphere was heavy, oppressive, like stepping into a place frozen in time. At the far end of the room stood an old man. He was hunched over a wooden table, his back turned to Liam, muttering softly to himself in a language that was unfamiliar. He didn't notice Liam enter, and for a brief moment, Liam considered leaving. But the man's presence drew him in, as if he were meant to be there. Liam cleared his throat, and the man turned slowly. His face was lined with age, his eyes sunken and dark, yet his gaze seemed sharp, as if he could see straight through Liam. The old man didn't speak immediately, but instead, he studied him with a penetrating look. "You've come looking for answers," the old man said at last, his voice gravelly but strong. Liam felt a chill run down his spine. "What is happening at the night market?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "I've seen strange things, shadows, reflections, people acting differently." The old man nodded slowly, his eyes narrowing. "The spirit of the market is ancient," he said. "It has been here long before the first vendors set up their stall. It feeds on desires, on what people want but don't need. It shows them their deepest desires and, in doing so, it traps them. Those who come seeking something often leave with much more than they bargained for." Liam took a step back, his heart pounding. "A spirit? Are you saying this market is haunted?" The old man's lips curled into a faint smile, though there was no warmth in it. "Haunted? No. It's a place of exchange. The spirit offers what it knows you need, but at a price." Liam stared at the old man, confusion swirling in his mind. "What kind of price?" The old man didn't answer right away. Instead, he walked to a shelf and pulled down a small jar. He held it up to Liam, the faint light reflecting off the glass. Inside was a dark liquid, swirling and pulsing, as if alive. "This is what the market offers," the old man said. "A choice. A decision. It's always there, in the shadows. And once you accept, it never lets go." Liam swallowed hard, his mind racing. The thought of the shadowy figure he'd seen earlier flashed in his mind, and the strange warnings from the fortune-teller and the vendor. Everything was beginning to make sense, but the reality of it was far more terrifying than he could have imagined. "How do I stop it?" Liam asked, his voice shaking. The old man's gaze softened, and for a moment, he almost seemed sad. "You can't. Not unless you understand the true nature of what you found. The spirit will show you what it believes you need. And if you accept, you become part of the market, forever." Liam felt the weight of the man's words settle over him. He had walked into the market looking for nothing more than food and fun, but now he realized that the spirit had already chosen him, and the market had begun its work. Liam's heart hammered in his chest. The room seemed to close in on him as the old man's words echoed in his mind. The spirit will show you what it believes you need. The thought of becoming part of the market, of being trapped in a cycle of desire and illusion, terrified him. He glanced back at the door, but before he could take a step, the air in the room grew heavy. The light from the lantern flickered, casting long, distorted shadows that stretched toward him like reaching fingers. The old man stepped back, his face unreadable. "You are already caught in its web," the old man said softly, his eyes watching Liam intently. "The market has chosen you. The moment you stepped into the alley, you were marked." Liam felt his throat tighten. It was true. The unease he had felt from the very beginning, the feeling of being watched, the coldness, the distorted reflections, it all made sense now. He had walked into the market with no intention of accepting anything, yet somehow, it had already accepted him. He was part of its game, whether he liked it or not. Suddenly, the temperature in the room dropped even further, the chill biting into his skin. He spun around, his pulse racing, his eyes searching the shadows. The spirit was near. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw it, a dark figure standing in the doorway of the small room. The shape was unclear at first, just a silhouette in the dim light. But as Liam focused, the figure began to take form, its features becoming clearer. It was tall, unnaturally tall, its limbs long and thin, its face shadowed but vaguely human. There was something wrong about it, its movements were jerky, as if it wasn't entirely sure how to exist in the space. Its eyes glowed faintly, a pale, sickly green that seemed to pierce through the darkness like lasers. The air around it felt thick, almost suffocating, as if the very presence of the spirit made the room smaller. Liam's breath hitched in his throat. The shadow moved toward him, slowly, deliberately. Every step it took sent a cold ripple through the air, and with each movement, a deep, whispering voice began to fill the room, low and guttural, almost inaudible. Liam couldn't make out the words, but they were unmistakably directed at him. The old man stood still, as though watching some inevitable event unfold, his expression unchanged. "You've been chosen," the spirit's voice seemed to say. It was distant at first, but then it grew clearer, wrapping itself around Liam's thoughts. "What do you desire, child? What is it that you seek?" Liam wanted to run. His instincts screamed for him to escape, to find the nearest exit and leave this nightmare behind. But his body wouldn't move. His legs were like lead, his feet frozen in place. The spirit's voice, though soft, seemed to resonate inside his mind, weighing down every thought, every action. He couldn't look away from the creature. It was too mesmerizing. It seemed to know him, to understand him, more than he understood himself. I don't want anything," Liam managed to choke out. "I'm not looking for anything. I came here by accident." The spirit's eyes flickered, and it tilted its head as if amused. The dark whispering intensified, swirling around him like a storm. "We all seek something, whether we admit it or not. You came to the market for a reason. You were drawn here, as all are, to take what is offered." The shadow took a step closer, its form growing more defined, the darkness of its body contrasting sharply against the pale light of the lantern. A cold gust of wind swept through the room, and for a moment, Liam felt as if he were drowning in it. The chill was suffocating, and the voice continued to echo in his mind. "Take what you need," it whispered, "and leave behind what you no longer require. That is the way of the market." The words were like a pull, like gravity, and Liam felt his mind begin to weaken. His body swayed, and in that moment, he realized something: the spirit wasn't offering him anything tangible. It was offering him a choice, a temptation, a chance to let go of the things that had been weighing on him for so long. His fears. His regrets. His doubts. The things he had been carrying, unknowingly, all his life. The market was offering him peace. The temptation was powerful, undeniable. For a split second, Liam almost reached out. He could feel the weight of his past lifting, the promise of release. The spirit was offering him freedom, freedom from the burdens that had plagued him for years. The years of pressure, loneliness, fear of the future. But then, a thought broke through the haze of temptation. No! This was not the way. Liam shook his head, his mind clearing as he fought back against the spirit's pull. "No," he said firmly, his voice stronger now. "I won't take anything from you." The shadow's face twisted into a grotesque, unsettling grin, and the voice in his mind grew louder, angrier. "You reject me," it hissed. "You reject what you need?" Liam stepped back, his heart pounding, his hands trembling. "I don't need you. I don't need the market. I'm leaving." He turned and bolted toward the door. The spirit's form lunged at him, but as he reached the threshold, something unseen slammed into him, knocking him back into the room. His head hit the floor with a thud, and for a moment, the world spun around him. But as the shadow hovered over him, something shifted. The old man stepped forward, raising his hand with a soft incantation. The room seemed to shake, the walls trembling as if in response to the words. The spirit froze. "You cannot take what is not yours," the old man said in a low, commanding tone. "This one is not yours to claim." The spirit recoiled, its form flickering, distorting as though it were losing its grip on reality. Then, with a shriek that rattled the very air, the shadow disappeared, leaving nothing but the oppressive silence in its wake. Liam lay on the floor, breathless and disoriented. His heart was still racing, and the world felt distant, as if the encounter with the spirit had somehow altered everything around him. His mind was reeling, the weight of what had just happened sinking in slowly. The market, the spirit, the strange presence, had all been real. But what did it mean? What was the cost of walking away from something so tempting, something that had promised to free him from the very weight of his existence. He slowly pushed himself up, his body aching from the fall. The old man was standing in front of him, his expression unreadable. The lantern's light flickered again, casting long shadows across the room, but the oppressive air had lifted. The space no longer felt suffocating, but somehow empty. "You have broken its hold," the old man said softly, his voice carrying an air of finality. "The spirit of the market can be deceptive. It shows you what you need to see, but not always what you want to find." Liam nodded slowly, still trying to process everything. The spirit, the temptation, the weight of his past being offered to him. It all felt so surreal. But as he stood up, the reality of it hit him harder than ever before. The market wasn't just a place for food or entertainment. It was a place for choices, for decisions that shaped lives, decisions that, once made, could never be undone. "The spirit feeds on desire, on the things we think we lack," the old man continued. "But in truth, we are the ones who feed it. We seek what we think will fulfill us, and in the end, we are left with nothing but emptiness. That is the true cost of the market." Liam stood in silence, reflecting on the old man's words. His mind kept returning to the shadowy figure, the voice that had echoed in his thoughts, and the moment when he had almost succumbed to the spirit's offer. He could still feel the pull, that temptation to let go of everything that had burdened him for so long. But something inside him had refused. He hadn't needed the market to define him. He didn't need to let go of his past to be free. The true freedom, he realized, wasn't about escaping his struggles, but confronting them, accepting them and moving forward. The old man nodded as if reading Liam's thoughts. "You have chosen wisely, but remember this, the market will always be here, waiting. It will never forget those it has touched. It will never stop calling to you." Liam's gaze shifted toward the door. The night market, with its labyrinth of lights, food stalls, and strange, twisted energy, was just beyond that threshold. The spirit's presence still lingered in the air, like a whisper in the wind. But now, Liam knew better. He understood the true nature of the place, and the price of accepting its offerings. He turned to the old man one last time. "Thank you for helping me." The old man's eyes softened, and for a moment, he almost seemed to smile. "You've learned what most never do. The market only offers what we're willing to take. It's up to us to decide what we truly need." Liam stepped toward the door, his footsteps steady now. He paused at the threshold, looking back at the small, dimly lit room, at the rows of shelves and jars, at the faint glow of the lantern. The night market was still there, but now, it seemed less menacing. Less mysterious. Less like a place where his future could be decided for him. As he stepped back into the bustling market, the sounds of the crowd filled his ears once more. The neon lights flickered in the distance, and the stalls, filled with food and goods, seemed less like a maze of temptation and more like a part of the city's heart. The choice was his now, and for the first time, Liam felt truly free.